Well, hi, DJ. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, this is DJ Coger. She's one of our therapists at Rest and Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, lovely to join you.
Awesome. Well, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about yourself, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, just to start.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm DJ. I'm a therapist at Rest and Therapy group practice, and I work in Washington State. I do telehealth, and I'm passionate about working with folks with ADHD, trauma, anxiety, neurodivergence, like autism stuff.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about the populations that you work with. Yeah, tell me a little bit about kind of what's brought you to this point of becoming an independent, currently an associate social worker, but what was that journey like for you?
I mean, I've always had an interest in psychology since even high school, but I originally went to college to do zoology because I wanted to work with animals because
Nice.
I love animals so much. But then
Yeah.
I got a D+ in chemistry and realized that wasn't my field. And
As most do.
my mom was getting her master's in psychotherapy my freshman year of college, and I was in a psychology class, like a foundation general psychology class,
Mm.
and realized how much I loved it and was like, "Oh, dang, I'm gonna be like my mom now."
As most do.
Yeah. And so then I switched my major from like zoology science to psychology and followed that. And then I studied abroad in London my last semester and interned at this place that was a day center and took a really holistic view of mental health. And it like has really informed my practice.
I love that. So what does that mean exactly? Like what do you think what's a holistic view of mental health mean?
So, a holistic view of mental health like takes into consideration the whole person, like their whole life experiences, cultural influences, family, income level, like how that influences needs that get met or don't get met in childhood, growing up, and everything. And like how we are all on a continuum of mental health. Like, there is no one place that's not like a stopping point or a finishing to the end of a journey type of thing. And so I think it's like it's not a me versus them type of deal. It's a we're all in this together, and I'm just a guide in this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good way to put it. And so when you're kind of using this framework with your clients or in your practice, like what things are you looking at? You mentioned income levels and maybe like family history. Are those things that you ask your clients about, or do you just kind of naturally get that information through your care, like sessions with them? Kind of tell me a little bit about that process.
So I tend to take a more clinical approach to start with because I like to do the intake process the first like 3 to 4 sessions, give or take, before creating the treatment plan and just do a full like biopsychosocial understand the whole full person, their whole history, everything that could influence them to understand the whole picture of who they are before we dive deeper into the like what they're really there for. And then that helps to develop the relationship more because that is a big foundation of my work.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. And there are just like so many facets to people. And you really are shaped by all these different influences and pieces of your life that maybe you don't recognize like cognitively, but that maybe someone like you that could help kind of guide them through that would help them kind of like understand those pieces of themselves.
Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense as far as kind of your intake process and how you use those different pieces of their life to basically inform your treatment plan. So what type of like interventions do you typically lean on, or maybe would that bring up for you when you're treating a client?
Well, like, first of all, I really enjoy working with folks who are ready to like do the deeper type of reflective work. Um, Becoming more aware of their habits and patterns and are looking for like a safe space where they can build that connection with somebody. And then going into the therapeutic modalities, I've gotten into more doing internal family systems informed type of work. And I've taken like the foundational course and then just got accepted to register for a level 1 training. And then I know a lot of CBT, DBT, ACT. I love ACT. And then I was trained with CBT and have DBT training, but that is not like where my passion actually lies. And in those things, even though I know a lot about those things, it's not like where I tend to go.
Okay. For maybe people who don't know what those acronyms are, would you share with us a little bit about what IFS is, since that sounds like it's kind of more your passion area right now?
Uh, yeah, so IFS is internal family systems. It takes a whole person approach to therapy, and it looks at like the different parts of us that develop. Well, these parts are with us from childhood, but the different aspects like the wounded child or the inner critic, these aspects of ourselves that try and protect us from harm. Those or like there's managers, firefighters, and then, like, the wounded part that both the managers and firefighters try to protect, but in different ways. And so the managers are, like, the forward thinkers, like, the executive planners. We're gonna, like, do these things to make sure the wounded self is protected. And then the firefighters are the ones who, like, rush in and save the day in, like, the crisis moments.
That makes sense. That actually, I think, myself, I resonate with, some pieces of that. And I think others do too. So are those kind of internal dialogues that come up for people, or how does that kind of function like in someone, I guess?
Yeah, so a manager could be something like the inner critic where it's like, don't even try. Don't do that. Like that is too hard or you're not good enough to like try and protect you from that projected harm
Mm.
that like it that part of yourself is expecting or thinks is going to happen. And then the firefighter is like a crisis happens and it's like great at responding in the moment, but if there isn't like an actual crisis happening, that's where the panic attacks come
Mm.
or like the feeling like you're in a crisis but like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
then there's with all of this too, there's the inner self or the I forgot the exact word, but like the true self,
Mm. Mhm.
which is the part that is, like, calm, wise, like, it's reflective of the, quote, unquote, like, "best parts of yourself." Like, it shows up when you're feeling happy and things are going well, and you're confident in who you are, and you're feeling like you can do anything.
So it's kind of the part of you that's more of that like connected, like living in the moment type of
Yeah.
maybe personality that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
And how does this kind of framework help you? Does it help with any specific clients that you found or like certain types of people, or how do people kind of experience this in a session?
So, my clients have found it helpful to dive deeper sometimes when they're looking for that. It's like one of the modalities that I use with people. So, it's not like every session we go into this type of stuff,
Mhm.
but reflecting on stuff that is holding them back from doing stuff that they really want to do. But there's an aspect of fear or hesitation around something that is like keeping them from achieving something that they would really want to do.
So it kind of helps you identify maybe those pieces of themselves that are potentially holding them back, or causing them some sort of anxiety or harm in some way,
Yeah.
basically. Okay,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
makes sense. Yeah, I love that. I think it makes a lot of sense that, we kind of all have these different aspects of ourselves that may come out at certain times. And if you don't have that, I think just like the awareness of what maybe could be coming up for you, that you can kind of get sucked into those different pieces, basically. I appreciate that. So yeah, tell me a little bit about, at this point in your career, kind of what your focus is on and where you see yourself in the future with your practice.
Yeah, so my focus, I aim to create a safe, supportive, warm environment for my clients where they feel they can really trust me to be vulnerable in moments and know that they're heard and held and reciprocated. And that, like, I also try to normalize stuff that is going on in a way that, like, they're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And how, I guess, is there anything maybe like influences or like pieces of you that kind of helps you connect or normalize to the people that you see?
Yeah, so I am like 1.5 Gen, mixed Asian American. My mom moved here as a baby, And so I'm not first gen, but I don't really feel like I'm second gen either.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I look more Asian than my mom. She actually looks more Mexican. And people walk up to her speaking Spanish, and she's like, no,
No. Where did she move from?
Japan.
Okay.
And my grandma, they moved when she was like a yearish old because my grandma married a guy from the Navy. And so that was like a big factor in them moving back to the US. They moved to California. And then they moved from California to Washington when my mom was like 10. And my mom grew up as a Valley girl. And so that also influenced the way I talk. I would say, like, totally. Like, some stuff I say is more Californian.
Mhm.
And then also, like, just growing up in Washington, like, I don't really have an accent either.
Mhm. Absolutely. So how do you feel like that cultural identity has kind of shaped you to this point?
It depends on what room I'm in, really. 'Cause so I'm mixed Asian American, indigenous, and white. So sometimes it's like I'm white passing, and then other times it's like, "Oh, yeah, you're Asian, no duh," or, "Oh, yeah, you're native, no duh." So it's really, like, dependent on, like, where I am, who recognizes that.
That makes sense. And how did you feel like it had any impact on you, like, maybe getting to this point, like growing up, or how to kind of speak to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, being mixed is like not really belonging to any one place. Not being like Asian enough for the Asian kids, not being like white enough for the white kids. And so like this like always kind of in like a limbo of like I didn't ever really know where I belonged growing up.
Yeah, that's powerful for sure. Yeah, and speak to how that maybe helps you connect to your clients. Do you think that connects at all to how you can kind of show up for them?
I love my Asian American clients so much. I don't really have any like mixed Asian American clients, but I have mixed clients from other races and I can connect with them on like this like people not recognizing them for like what their heritage cultural background is. And so I think a lot of my clients have found that really valuable to know that I understand like, being in that in-between space.
Yeah, that shared experience of not feeling like maybe you don't quite fit in with specific groups. That makes sense. Okay. Anything else that kind of comes to mind when you think of, how you show up for your clients and what you bring to the table?
Well, I've also got ADHD, autistic tendencies, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, type 1 diabetes, and so all of that, like, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder too.
Mhm.
And it's my body doesn't produce insulin. And so I rely on like something else to always like be giving me insulin outside of my body and monitoring my blood sugars throughout the day as like it's a 24/7 type of thing every day
Yeah.
since I was like 5.5. And so I love diabetes stuff and I love like ADHD, autism, and like premenstrual dysphoric disorder, like hormonal stuff for women, because that's all stuff I personally experienced.
Mhm.
And like the extremes of mood, challenges with like attention and focus and hyperactivity, like social connection. I'm very good at masking. Everyone thinks I'm like an extrovert and they're like, oh, DJ's so friendly and warm and social. But that's just like a really good face that I can put on.
Hmm. And so you feel like that's something where you can connect with them, on that level of understanding, basically, of I see that you're masking and I see it because that's what I do too.
Mhm, exactly. And my mom, for most of my life, she worked with autistic kids and
Okay.
was a preschool teacher and then like a one-on-one for autistic kids for a period of time when I was growing up. And so I got to experience secondhand
Mhm.
her doing that, some of those connections with some of the kids that she worked with too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got to kind of see how they were influenced by your mom and see her work with them and then also just get to communicate with them. I feel like that probably helped you just kind of like understand them in general.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone always tells me that like I'm so like what's the vibe? Not just like authentic, but like I've always been me my whole life.
Mhm.
I've never tried to like change who I am. And that's been a like authenticity has been like something that I really value with the way that I connect with people too.
Well, I can definitely sense that. And, I appreciate you showing up today and sharing, a little bit about yourself and what you do. And I can definitely feel your authenticity of just being open to questions and sharing. So yeah, is there anything else that, feels important for you to share today with us?
I don't think so.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for your time and for chatting with me today.